Jennifer with Eversweet Apiaries, and I'd like to talk to you today about feeding your bees pollen patties. You would feed your bees pollen patties if there is bad weather, if there's too much rain, if there's a dearth. Bees need both pollen and nectar to exist and to raise their brood with. So if there is bad weather, then they can't get out and forage. Then you will need to feed them the substitute, sugar water and pollen patties. A lot of times bees won't eat as much pollen. That's okay. There's usually pollen everywhere, and they usually don't have a hard time finding it. The problem is the nectar. But it's better to offer it to them than for them to go without. And we use Bee Pro, and we make these up in bulk quantities, and we put these in quart bags, and this is a pound of pollen patty. And there's many different substitutes out on the market. We found that Bee Pro has been the best one overall over the years. And you would use, if you're going to make this at home, it would be 2 parts Bee Pro to 1 part granulated cane sugar. Don't use beet sugar. You want to use cane sugar. And the sugar is just there so they are attracted to the pollen. If you don't use sugar, they're not going to be attracted to the pollen substitute. And if you use too much sugar, then the pollen patty will mold quicker. So you don't want a lot of sugar in there. And so the way that you would feed this to them is you would cut a circle in here and just using your X-Acto knife, and then you would peel back the plastic there, and you want to put it down, the circle down, like over the brood nest on the top box. And so you're putting it down because their body heat is going to help keep that pollen patty moist, and it won't dry out. If it's dried out, like if you put it up or face up, then it's going to dry out quicker, and they're not attracted to the dry pollen patty. And so you want that face down, the circle down, and don't take it out of the Ziploc baggie because again, it's the Ziploc bag is going to help make it remain moist. And then if you're feeding the sugar butter and you're using a hive top feeder, you can just place that right over top. If you're using, you got a top screen, you can just put that right on top. There's usually enough space right there. You might want to use a shim if you have that. Usually there's enough room in there. You see, there's enough room right there when you're using a top screen. But most of the time you're going to be, if you have a hive top feeder, you're going to use that with the pollen patty. What else? Oh, I've heard a lot of people say they don't like using pollen patties because it attracts small hive beetle larvae. Well, yes, it does. But you're using that as a little bait trap for the small hive beetle larvae. It's not attracting small hive beetles into your hive. The small hive beetles are already there. It's not like they're waiting outside, for you to put that pollen patty in. And it was like, oh, thank goodness, she finally put that pollen patty in. I'm going to go lay eggs in it. Small hive beetles like laying their eggs in sandy, loamy soil. So the pollen patty really mimics that. And it's much better to have them lay it in the pollen patty, which you can just take out and throw away, than have them put that in your frames, their eggs in the frames, because then you'll have to take that whole frame out and freeze it, and you could be destroying your brood in the process. So I think maybe people might be leaving it in there too long and not, removing that pollen patty. And it's a cheap way, to cut down on your small hive beetle problem. And what else? Oh, if you have chickens, you can freeze it, for 48 hours, and then the chickens will be really happy. They'll gobble that up. But you definitely want to freeze it, and you don't want to just throw it on the ground, because then you're just helping the small hive beetles out, because that's their goal. The larva is to get to the ground to pupate to become adults, so you don't want to help them out. So you want to take this out and freeze it to kill the eggs and larvae in there. I believe that's it. If you have any questions, you can email me at info@eversweetapiaries.com or message me at facebook.com/eversweetapiaries. Thanks a lot, and happy beekeeping.